seated in Virasana or any other posture you are seated in, interlock your fingers in front of you and lift the arms. In lifting the arms, see that the lift comes much more from the chest, from the dorsal chest. So the sensation in the arm should be as though the chest is pushing the arms up. Not that with the help of your arm you are lifting the chest, the opposite. Lift the chest so as to push the arms further. And be careful as you do that, you don't lift your chin up. As you inhale, there is a little more subtle lift. On exhalation, don't drop that lift. Also, when you lift the arms and you lift the chest, the tendency is to push the head of the humerus forward. Take the head of the humerus further back in the armpit. And if you can, those who can, turn the palms up. Interlocking your fingers, turn the palms up. And release. Interlock your fingers behind you. And again, lift the arms as high as you can. Without bending forward, lift the arms up as high as you can. When you lift the arms like that behind you, externally rotate the arms so that the skin from the front of the head of the humerus is go towards the back of the body. And the shoulder blades are pinched more towards each other. Be careful, the tendency is to push the floating ribs forward. Floating ribs may come forward, but the essential lift is as though in your armpit, the chest is moved from the back to the front, the arm is moved from the front to the back. Keep the chin down. And release. In both those actions, in bringing the arms forward and lifting or behind lifting, while I'm emphasizing that that movement comes from the chest, also at the other extreme, the movement is lacking in the wrist. Because when you bend the wrist, you tend to push the carpal tunnel area forward, which means there is not a real lift in the palm. So to check that, this is what I'd like you to do. Put your left hand up, like I'm doing. With the right hand, with these 3 fingers and the thumb, hold the wrist or even the two fingers and the thumb, hold the wrist. The middle finger and the index finger, put it on the area where the carpal tunnel is. Now bend the hand back. And you find that under the index finger and the middle finger, the wrist puffs out. That ideally should not happen. You prevent that by making much more vertical lift within the wrist arm, so that with your fingers, with the ring finger, ring and small finger and the thumb, pull the wrist down, lift the hand as high up as you can, and put the other two fingers on that carpal tunnel area. Keep the vertical lift in the palm so much that when you bend the wrist back, there is minimum or no puffing of the carpal tunnel into your index finger and the ring finger. Minimize that. Maximum vertical lift in the wrist joint retained. You do that by pulling the hand down, lower arm down, and lifting the hand itself much higher up.
Pulling this skin down and then lift.
No, you don't pull the skin down. You pull the arm down, lift the whole of the palm up. That should minimize that puffing in the wrist. Whenever we put weight on the palms, we also tend to inflate that area. Do the second arm, lift the right hand up, hold that, and lift the hand as high up as you can, but bring the arm down. Lower arm pull down, palm lift up. And then that palm back, hand back, minimizing that sense of puffiness in the wrist. So that, bring the hand down, watch me. If I go into this position here, I want to do the same thing. The tendency is to go and sit into the palm. The attempt you want to make is make the palm heavier in the floor, but lift the arm up much more. So same kind of vertical space happens in the wrist joint, minimizing the puffiness of the carpal tunnel. Everybody go to that position. So your thigh is perpendicular to the floor. The arm is also perpendicular to the floor. And you increase the height of the arm and yet put the pressure of the palm down. And come down. When you put the palm down like that and take weight on the palm, keep the palm itself very wide. The base of the palm is very wide. The wrist does the opposite. Wrist is made as narrow as possible. So the radial and the ulnar bone are brought together. Palm very wide, but these two bones as close as possible. Rather similar to what you do with the foot also. When you're putting weight on the foot, keep the foot, the heel very wide, but keep the ankle very narrow. Very same principle. Keep the palm very wide, but bring these two bones together. if you're not used to it and if you haven't looked at it before, the mind might say, oh, that's a good idea, but it's poetry. These bones cannot be moved like that. The fact is the bones can be moved. To check that, take your left hand up again. Hold these bones together with the right hand. Reasonably firm, not very tight, but firm. And within the grip of your right arm, move those two bones away from each other and towards each other. And away from each other and towards each other. And you get a sense that you can move those bones away from each other. In the beginning, one might want to use jaws and facial muscles to do it. Okay? But you can do it without any use of the facial muscles. Widen the palm, narrow wrist. Widen the palm, narrow wrist. Generally speaking, in human body, what happens is as you get older, the amount of Venus and the amount of Mercury in your palm, these two collapse towards each other. So you begin to lift things with your thumb in that position. Okay? If I want to hold a glass up, I tend to do this. Okay? Whereas no matter what you are holding with your fingers, keep these two very wide. The mount of the thumb, called the mount of Venus, begins to collapse inwards. It's an arthritic condition. So if I want to place my palms properly on the floor, knowing that that is the tendency, I place my thumb first, the mount of the thumb first, then widen the palm very wide, keep the palm wide, and start making the wrist narrow. Same on the second hand, widen the palm, make the wrist very narrow. And then prevent the puffiness of the wrist by lifting the wrist, as it were, more and more, increasing the vertical sense of height in the wrist. And release again. Just as in Dandasana or with the leg work, we do this, very wide foot, narrow ankle. That narrowness of the ankle is taken high up towards the top of the thigh. Same here, with the palm very wide, making the wrist very narrow. I want to take that sense of narrow wrist as though I'm gripping everywhere in the arms. The flesh, the skin comes very, very close to the bone. So the stretch then feels, the lift then feels like much more what I would call bone lift rather than just muscular lift. Do that again. Wide palm on the floor. Keep the palm heavy, but lift the whole lower arm, elbow, upper arm up. Keeping the palm wide, the wrist narrow, and grip the flesh and the skin everywhere in your arms close to the bone, creating more a sense of lengthening the bone itself. And release. So we take that kind of action from the arms into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay? If I put my hands again like that carefully, very wide palms, narrow wrists, lifting, minimizing the puffiness of the. So as I go, we won't go to downward dog first. I'd like you to just do this. I go down, keeping the length of the arms, and I come up. And again, I go down and come up. When I go down, I don't want to create more puffiness here. So this is lifted away from the floor all the time as I go down, and it is kept up as I come up. Do 20 cycles like that. Inhale, exhale, go down. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go down. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go down. And not only in the wrist, in your armpit also. Don't let the bones sink into the skin of the armpit. Some people count 20 very quickly. Some take a very long time to count the 20. When you finish the 20, sit back into Virasa. So we progressively take that action into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Put your palms on the floor again. Keep that firmness in the arm. Same in your feet, wide feet, narrow ankles. So the arms and the legs are very, very, very firm. In both the legs and the arms, the sensation is as though you're working the bone more than your muscle. But keep the breath soft. On inhalation, still release the brain in. On exhalation, see if the brain releases out. Hold it for another minute. And come to Dandasana.